Okay, so in this video, I'll be talking you through the procedure to connect to a Linux server using SSH. And specifically, I will be talking about Windows first and then macOS and Linux. But for Mac and Linux, they pretty much share the same procedure. And for Windows, it's a little bit more different. And we need to use some dedicated software. In my case here, I will be using the so-called PuTTY. It's a free available. You can just Google PUTTY and then download and install the software on your computer. So it's pretty straightforward. And once we open the interface, we can put in the host name, the address for the server. And then we go to connection section, click on data, and put in our username here. And go back to the session, and then we can click on open to start the connection. So for sure, we need to put in our password on the server. So once we put in this password successfully, we can set up the connection. And there we go. We are already in the server on terminal. So that's for sure something we can use to connect to the server. But anytime you fire up a new connection, you definitely want to repeat this procedure to put in the password. Sometimes it can be tedious. So I'm going to show you a way for a secure and also at the same time convenient way to do the connection. And that's where we are going to use the so-called SSH key for the connection. So anytime when we start a new connection, we save the effort of putting in the password every time. And to do that, we need to set up the so-called key pair. And when you install the program PuTTY, it will install several other programs. One of them is the PuTTY That's the key generator. Using that, we will be generating a key pair, one private key, one public key. And private key is for sure something we want to keep securely on our local disk. Public key is something we're going to use and paste onto the server. So I'm going to show you that. So to generate the key, you go to this interface and click on generate. And then you just move your mouse randomly in this blank space. That will just give the whole routine little randomness as shown by the text on the top. And it should take you several moments to finish. And once we finish, we click on save private key, and given this warning box, we just click on yes and give it a name for the private key. And as I said, this private key is something we definitely want to keep securely on our local disk. We don't want anybody else to see the key, to have the key. But the public key is okay. And what we can do is to copy this public key, selecting them, and then copy using Control C. And we go back to the connected session on the Linux server. And suppose we are in our home directory, we want to go to .ssh. And we list all the files in the SSH folder. And we will be seeing a file called authorized _ keys. If you don't have the file, you can definitely create it by using exactly the touch command. And the touch command, what the touch command does is if the file existing there, it will just touch basically to update the timestamp on the file. And if it's not there, it will just create the file. Or if you want to directly editing the file, say in my case, I'm using the Vim editor on the terminal to edit a file. And again, using Vim, if you gave the command the file name to use, if the file is not there, it will just create a new file. So Vim is just one of the editors you can use on terminal. And here I will be just using it because it's pretty powerful. But if you haven't used Vim before, you can just follow exactly my instruction here. So I put on the command name, Vim, followed by the file name. That file has to be with exactly the same name, authorized _ keys. And once you are in the file, you can use the capital G key to go to the bottom of the file and then press O to go into the so-called editing mode. So we can just put in text and do whatever editing we want. And then what we want to do here is to paste in the public key that we previously copied from here. Then we go back to the terminal, and to paste in the text, we can't use something like a Control V or Command V, whatever. So on terminal, especially on party in this case, we can do the right click to paste in the key. And once we paste in the key, we want to exit the editing mode. And to do that, you want to press the top left corner on your keyboard, which is the escape key, to exit the editing mode. And you can see on the bottom left corner, you can see the mode has been changed to the so-called normal mode. And then once we are in that mode, once you see the normal on the bottom left corner, you can just press the capital Z key on your keyboard 2 times. That will just exit the file and save it at the same time. So by doing that, the public key is already populated into the authorized underscore key. And then we'll move on next to use the previously saved private key to do the connection. In this step, I can just close the generator window and start a new party session. And again, we want to paste in the server address. So here, I just go to here, and then when you select the text on the terminal on party, it will automatically copy the text. That's something maybe good to know. And what I want to do is just to grab the host name again. So I can put it in here, and then I go to, again, the data, put in my username. And then I want to go to the SSH section and further click on auths and credentials. That's where I want to use the private key to set up the connection. So here I want to use the browse button to browse into the location where I saved previously the private key. So in this case, I'll be using the third one from the top. Click on open. So that's pretty much all the setup. And then we go back to the session here and then say, I don't want to do the same thing again. I just want to save all the inputs I input here. And in this case, I just put in, say, ZYP, my name, and then PG3 live reduction server, and click on save. So you can see that the session, all the inputs that we previously inputting was successfully saved to this session called ZYP, blah, blah, blah. And then once we have that, once we can select this saved session and click on open. And you can see that we don't need to put in the password. So the connection can be directly, conveniently set up in a secure way, saving a lot of time and efforts for typing in the password. So let's try it just one more time, close everything. And then click on party again. You can single click on this one and click on open, or you can just double click on the session. So you can see the connection can be set up very quickly. So that's what we do on Windows. Okay, so on the macOS and the Linux systems, the connection through SSH, the principle is pretty much similar to what we have on Windows. But the specific procedure may be a little bit different. But as I said earlier, the macOS and the Linux operating system does share the same approach. So I'm going to use the macOS for the demonstration purpose, so that we need to bring up a terminal. And here I'm going to use the bash shell. This is one of the commonly used shell on terminal, the BASH. And that's the shell we are using on the analysis cluster as well at Oak Ridge. So once we are in the terminal, we are in the bash shell. What we can do is to use the SSH command to set up the connection, followed by typing in the username and the host name, the address for the server. And then for sure, we need to type in our password again. Okay, typing in the password, we are connected without any problems. Let's say we want to save efforts to type in the password. How do we do that? Well, for that purpose, we need to bring up a new terminal on the local machine. Then by default, I'm using the so-called Z shell, the ZSH. So I'm going to type in the bash command to go into the bash shell for the demonstration purpose. And after that, I just need to go to the .ssh folder and list all the files. You can see all the key pairs that I previously generated for connecting to different servers. And here I'm going to generate a new one for connecting to the Powgen level reduction server specifically. And to do that, I'm going to type in the SSH dash keygen, representing the key generation, followed by nothing. And we can type in the file name. So let's say just use this one for the demonstration. And since it's already there, we just want to overwrite it. Passphrase, we don't need it. Just press enter 2 times. And list the file again. And we can see it's generated the new private key file. So I want to emphasize one more time that the pg3_live, the private key, is definitely something we want to keep securely and secretly on our local drive. That's something we don't want to anybody else apart from ourselves to see or have this file. But the public key file is okay. So now I'm gonna view the contents of the file and then select the contents. Press Command C on my macOS to copy the text and then go back to the already connected server and go into the SSH folder on the server. List the files and edit the authorized underscore keys file. Press G, capital G to go to the bottom of the file, press O to insert a new line, and then press Command V to paste in the contents. One thing I do forget to mention is that the authorized underscore key file needs to have the proper permission. So you can see here, as owner, I have the read and write permission. And for anybody in the defined group, we have the only the read permission, and for all the other people, we also have the read only permission. So suppose that the file permission is not right, we can go back to this tool that we previously used and just put in the intended command that we want to use. Say I just select the read and write permission, and for the owner, read only. For both the group and the public, you can see the code is 644. So what we can do is go back to the connected terminal on the server and then type in chmod 644 followed by the authorized file name. So we can change the permission to make it proper. And after that, we can go back to the local terminal and using again the SSH command to set up the SSH connection. But this time I want to use the -i flag and give it the private key name that we previously generated. So typing in the username, and I just want to copy the host name of the server. Paste it in. You can see that without the need of typing in the password, I can set up the connection securely and conveniently. But still, you can see the command is just long, and I don't want to repeat this long command every time. So what do we do? So make sure that on the local terminal we are located in this .ssh under our home directory. And then we can edit a file under this directory called config, config, and that file has to be with exactly this file name, config. So using Vim, you can see a lot of predefined servers on my local machine. So that's what I have been using. And the bottom one is just the thing I defined for the Polygon library reduction server. The first line, you probably want to copy in just exactly the same style as what I'm having here. For the host name, you can give it whatever arbitrary meaningful name to yourself, but it has to be a single word without any spaces. And then for the host name, we just paste in the host name of the server. And the username is just our own username. Identity file is just the full path to whatever private key we were previously generated. So in my case, it's this one. But it has to be the full path. And then after that, we gonna remember this host name. Just copy that and exit this config file. And then to set up the connection now, I just only need to type in the SSH command, followed by the host name that we defined in the config file. So you can see the command is pretty short, but still we can just set up the connection securely and conveniently. So say I still feel the command is too long, and we can go further. So on again the bash shell, what we can do is to go to our home directory and open the configuration file called bash.bashrc. That's the configuration file for the bash shell. Anytime you bring up a new terminal on the bash environment, it will just load this file and load in whatever configuration inside that file. So inside that file, I want to define a so-called alias. That's kind of the short name for a long command. So I have already defined it before, but the content within the single code is the real command we want to execute. And the characters before, or the strings before this equal sign, is just the short name for the command. So in my case, it's the pg3l for live reduction. And that's our definition. And then we want to exit this file. And then to make the whatever new editing to take effect, we just want to do source followed by the file name dot bash rc to make the new editing taking effect. And then after that, we can do something like this: pg3l, 4 characters. Boom. Now we have the connection to the server using very convenient way. So that's what I want to share for connecting to the server, Linux server using SSH on both Linux, Mac, and the Windows operating systems. I hope that will be helpful. Thank you so much.